Hey, welcome to Facts at 5. It is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. I am Michael Clark. We're here at the LTV Media Center in Waynescott, New York. And I'm here with Morgan Vaughan. Say hello, Morgan.
Hello, Morgan.
And so what's happening today, Morgan? Why don't you kick us off here?
Okay, well, apparently the amount of violence and fires and looting declined last night relative to the chaos of previous nights. Instead, peaceful protests in many cities defied curfews and remained on the streets late into the night to protest police violence.
It is all relative.
It is all relative, yes.
There were still fires and stuff like that in the city last night. Yeah.
But in Bridgehampton, there was a large crowd of 500 plus.
Yeah.
That was there to protest what we would call systemic racism and police brutality against African Americans. And it was and we have some footage that we're going to show at the end.
Yep.
And it seemed like it was very well attended, and people were, I thought the most striking part was the organizers had people do nothing or say something for 8 minutes and
46 seconds.
46 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, it was...
which was the amount of time that he was pinned down and someone was on his neck.
Right. I think it was quite a touching show.
Right.
From this community, and I think there's more to follow.
Yep.
From as far as it goes, and we're torn, right? Because you have this, and you really feel that you need to speak out and do these things and carry the signs and whatnot. But what you were saying just the other day, there's still a pandemic,
right?
And it's just because you really don't know. To what degree, where are we at? Is there going to be a second wave? What's going to go on? It's scary. It's frightening for a lot of reasons.
Right.
It's a frightening time. So you see all these people were together on the streets of Bridgehampton, and they all had, I would say, 90-95% of them had
I saw
masks.
Everybody, the pictures I saw had a mask or something.
I did too.
Yeah.
Frankly, I didn't see anybody without a mask, but the, just in those close things, we just really don't know. I just hope that we don't see a spike because of people raising their voices on in this situation.
Well, and ironically, the people who've been the hardest hit have been the people who are disenfranchised, the Black and brown people who are
at risk.
At risk.
Yes.
For the disease because of a variety of many reasons that could be attributable to what I heard on Marketplace and NPR yesterday called systemic economic racism, which is probably so you have all these cofactors going on. So we're really hoping that people are taken care and they do not get sick.
Right. And, one of the things that had happened that, I saw it live on the television was the clearing out of the protesters in Washington. Not to take a political stance on it, or one way or the other, but just reporting out on what we're hearing has happened, and the reaction to it is that that order to clear the square across from the White House on Monday night was ordered by Attorney General William Barr. And I remember watching it on TV, and he actually came out into that part. And he was staying there with a group of other men in suits, and we're kind of staying there, and they were kind of equating it to a general overlooking the battlefield almost, because he had this line of people in front of him, the police and the protesters were there. Nothing was being thrown, nothing was happening, and then he walked away with these people, and then the police line kind of moved up right in the faces of the protesters. And, I thought, wow, that's odd that that's happening. And then, and then the president came out and gave his Rose Garden speech. And then when that ended...
I don't even think it had ended.
Huh?
I think it was during.
Yeah, maybe it could have been.
Because you could hear the sounds of whatever they use, the canisters that they use.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Now that I think back on it. And it was just, the whole thing was bizarre, and I couldn't figure out why. And then, he went over to the church. So there's been a lot of press on that. Some former military leaders and democracy experts condemned the use of force against the citizens at that time. Retired Admiral Mike Mullen wrote that Trump had laid bare his disdain for the right of peaceful protest in this country. And former Pentagon official Corey Shake, and the Republican policy advisor, she's a Republican policy advisor, if we were seeing this in another country, we would be deeply concerned. And, on it goes. I'm sure it didn't necessarily get the press, but, yet you read on social media, there's a lot of support for what he did as well. Not that we're going to condemn it or condone it or whatever. It is what happened.
Well,
those are the facts, Jack.
One of the other facts is that George Bush and his wife Laura, former President George W. Bush, obviously, released a statement yesterday that Laura and I are anguished by the brutal suffocation of George Floyd and disturbed by the injustice and fear that suffocate our country. Yet we have resisted the urge to speak out because this is not the time for us to lecture. It is time for us to listen. It is time for America to examine our tragic failures, and as we do, we will also see some of our redeeming strengths. It remains a shocking failure that many African Americans, especially young African American men, are harassed and threatened in their own country. It is a strength when protesters, protected by responsible law enforcement, march for a better future. And then it goes on. Those who set out to silence those voices do not understand the meaning of America or how it becomes a better place.
Right.
And I think that leads me to think about what we're doing right here, which is a uniquely American experience, I would argue, in public access television.
Yeah.
And we are able to, anyone from the community doesn't have to have a contract with a big network. They can actually do a television program from this community that will be broadcast to their peers and their local people. So we encourage people this is an incredibly crazy 1970s idea that still exists for some reason.
Yeah.
And we're proud to be part of it. But we want to hear everyone's voices, and that includes everyone. The law about public access is we cannot discriminate against anyone. There are certain FCC guidelines you have to, you can't incite violence. You can't, but any opinions are welcome.
That's right.
And that's what we want.
Right, and we encourage people to do that. As you said, this is the communication tool to do that.
Yep.
Because not only showing the show on this channel, there's a good possibility we could end up putting it on Facebook or Instagram or references to it or YouTube and that type of thing. You want to get your voice out there. You want to get your message out there. Come to LTV. Contact us at facts@ltveh.org and
visit the website and see how to do it. And we pretty much we fast-track producers now, I think.
In
the past. Yeah, we've made it a lot more streamlined.
So take advantage of that, folks.
Yep.
It's a really good opportunity. So what else is going on? How about sports news? Let's do sports.
You do sports.
All right, I'll do it. The NBA. This is kind of sports and kind of like surreal.
Yeah.
But they're in talks to resume their pandemic-shortened season by hosting the league at Walt Disney World in Florida. Players would live in the Disney hotels, and all games would be held at the nearby ESPN Wide World of Sports complex. Now, you may say, why?
Why?
Why? Well, thanks for asking. Well, it doesn't.
Why Disney World?
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt that the ESPN facility is already wired to broadcast the games on its own network, and that Disney, its parent company, pays the NBA more than $1 billion a year for the rights to air them. Doesn't hurt a bit.
Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt.
It seems like a marriage made in heaven there.
Well, it is good news for sports fans that there are they're kicking around a lot of ideas in baseball and football and on how are they going to do this,
right?
And without a crowd most of the time, but there's hope. There's hope. Let's go.
Okay, so I think we have a couple minutes left, so let's just talk about what happened today. You got a card in the mail. You got your stimulus check, but it was a card.
Yes, no longer a check. It's a card that I wish I could show you, but I can't.
Now, here's my question for you. When it arrived, did it look special?
No, it doesn't. There's really no indication except when you read the fine print that it's coming from
The Treasury.
the government. There's no signature. There's no.
Because I think
the big furor over the fact that they got stopped or anything. The production of them because of the president having to sign it. Doesn't say anything.
So
like
here's what's happening with it is that a lot of people pay attention if you get a plain envelope in the mail that's marked Money Network Cardholder Services. Now that is something that I would get and instantly shred.
Right.
However, which is a lot of people are doing exactly that.
Right.
So don't do that.
Right.
It is not a scam. It's real stimulus cash. The envelope contains a prepaid debit card that is loaded with your stimulus payment. Do not throw out this envelope or toss aside this card as it can contain up to $1,200 for single taxpayers. The cards are marked Visa debit card, and the back of the card has a logo for MetaBank. And there are some stipulations about using it. You have to sign up for it, etc. I questioned right away. I thought it was a little bit strange that we're getting debit cards from a private company. But I don't know. I guess apparently there's
I guess it's good if they decide to give more money again. They could just put it on that same card.
They can put it on the same card or whatever, but you will need to create a 4-digit PIN. And then the other thing that I noticed was that you can, if you're going to take money out, you have to go to a fee-free ATM.
Yes.
And those have the Allpoint logo on them.
Right.
And you can go to eipcard.com/locator, type in 11937, and they're all at like CVS and the IGA.
Not at the bank.
And Walgreens, not at the bank. And I'm just questioning, I think this would be interesting, how you're going to take out $2,400 cash to pay your landlord.
You can't because you can only take out $1,000 at a time. Then after that, they charge you $5 for taking money out.
It's a really, I find this to be a little bit interesting, and I'm looking forward to hearing how you guys work through this because it seems a little bit strange to me. I understand that it might be better in a lot of ways because people don't have bank accounts, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
And if you can't take out everything you need to take out for, to pay, you can go grocery shopping, spend it all at CVS.
You can.
But
a lot of greeting cards.
The biggest thing is don't throw it out.
Right.
Because then you're in a real mess. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops.
Right.
So anyway, that is that.
And then on a programming note, we have Angela following right after this, talking to Peter Haskell, who is a fisherman and a business owner, talking about the fishing industry in the era of COVID-19. And don't forget that on June the 6th and 7th, we have Feed the Need, the best jams, which will be shown here on LTV, Channel 20, and available on our website, ltveh.org, featuring some great local musicians, some national acts. And once again, thank you to our sponsor for FACTSRFIVE, Sound Aircraft Services. And don't forget to follow us on social media, YouTube, and ltveh.org.
Awesome.
Good night, folks. Stay tuned.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
All right, guys, listen. We're about to take the action. We're about to take the action. For 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we're going to either lay in the road, you do what you want to do. You kneel, you put a hand up, whatever you feel comfortable with. But we're going to stand in solidarity with George Floyd. Not only George Floyd, but everybody that's been killed by the police.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
George Floyd.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor.
Justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Did that feel like an eternity?
Yes.
We didn't even get done. We still have a minute left. Imagine how long he was on the ground, not being able to breathe. Can you picture it? Can you see it now? Nobody was on your neck. That felt like an eternity. Think about that.
Thanks, guys. Today we're going to talk about the fishing industry on the East End, how it's been affected by COVID and how it's been coping and where we are today. Joining us as our special guest on Facts at 5 is Captain Peter Haskell. He's a commercial fisherman and the founder of Haskell's Seafood in East Quogue. There's a lot of business out in the East End and Long Island. Peter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Angela. Very nice to be here.
Very nice to see you. I consider you a friend of LTV. I've had your delicious fish concoctions, I would call them, when we had our LTV's salons, and you were generous enough to donate some great seafood. And we met you through Tia Green, who does a wonderful show called Savor the Moments. And I know we're still talking about going on a fishing expedition together. I want to do that. But tell me, basically, where you are with this. I know COVID has been very challenging. A lot of fishermen and women were, almost out of business, catching fish and having nowhere to go with it. Walk us back through what happened in March and where you guys are now.
Sure. Yeah, to rewind the tape a bit, this season in particular, the shellfish season for bay scallops was not a strong one to begin with before COVID. So our industry was entering the season without some of the normal sources that we might have in general. Once we approached March, it was a time where it was kind of a gut punch at that point, because the fisheries start to get more active as we approach the spring. And really what happened was that the COVID hit, the market kind of seized. It was just this knee-jerk reaction where things came to a halt, but at the same time, you could see in the grocery stores there was a lack of food. So not only was it an emergency type moment, but it was also a point at which you knew it was a logistical problem. So our approach out of the gate was to quickly redesign our logistics that were in place to take our emphasis off of wholesale, which obviously was first affected, and start to reach our community with local seafood, because I've always believed that a community can be resilient if you're using the resources that are around you. And I guess it was quick to see that we needed to kind of insulate that way. So getting that program rolling, I think for us was a good start, is to take all those services that we had, like the refrigerated vehicle, create a program where we could arrive to one's front door without any person-to-person interaction. We would deliver the fish, take the credit card over the telephone, and the driver would actually alert the customer after the package was dropped that it was there for pickup. So we tried to, I think as every business is doing early on, create an insulated, safe way to get food to people, especially those who were most challenged getting out to a store. My parents, I was concerned about at that time, and I was thinking about, different groups of people that really shouldn't be out and about. And if we could reach them and make life a little easier, I thought there might be comfort in that too. So that's how our program started.
Were you able to do that because of how you were set up? Because I think there are a lot of people who fish out there for a living, but weren't able to do that. Why were you able to do that? Because you had the facility, you had the truck, is it a license? I just want to understand the whole picture.
To give you a little bit more of a debriefing on how that might happen. Again, I am a commercial fisherman that acquired a dealer's permit years and years ago. And over time, we've developed our program to become multifaceted. So we have a lot of different outlets. And as time goes on, it's more demanding in the facility as well, and it grows. So I felt it was a call to action. We had the facility, we had the licenses, we have the food safety intact. To me, it was a real call to action to use those things and put them where it was best suited. And in the process, we wanted to also reach out to as many local fishermen as we could. As you may or may not know, we're committed to only working with local seafood to begin with that's landed on Long Island. So in that process, not only did we continue working with the relationships that we've had, but we met a lot more people. So that could be even a silver lining, is that we had even more fishermen that we were working with that we met under different circumstances, from Montauk out to Moriches. And, I think, to get back to your question, is that it really, at that moment in time, it took real agility. And I think we were fortunate to have the logistics that we did.
Yeah. So tell me in general, the industry right now. I mean, obviously a lot of restaurants are limited to just takeout, curbside, or takeout if they're even delivering. Do you service, what are you guys doing? And what are people in general out there doing in terms of catching fish and getting fish to people?
Yeah,
What is the business? How does it change?
Well, significantly changed. Nothing is easy. Let's say that. I feel like everything we do takes maybe 3 or 4 times the effort to execute because it's not in a normal setting. And again, that goes back to logistics and that ability to actually change things quickly. I think that's why bigger companies in the food industry, whether it's produce or anything, are having trouble kind of turning that super tanker to adjust. Restaurants, our accounts that we work with, are doing takeout, and they are online in a small capacity, though. That's very challenging for them as well. I'd say that the greater industry is just doing its best every day to adapt and be able to accomplish the tasks at hand, and they kind of change every day.
So if somebody wants to come into your shop, they can't right now. Is that right?
At our seafood shop, we do not let people in or out at the facility. When it comes to a delivery pickup, let's say, if somebody wants to come to our seafood facility to pick something up, we bring the package out to the door and ask, there's a sign on the front that says, please call us in the office, we will come out to you. So at that point, someone may have placed an order, it's been fulfilled. They contact us when they're in our parking lot, actually, and somebody with a mask and gloves goes out to their vehicle and either places it in the trunk or hands it to them, whatever they prefer. But we're always exercising the proper precautions in that nature too. But our facility is closed to the public, although they have access to it.
Where do you primarily get your fish from? I know sometimes you're out in Montauk, and I know you're based in East Quogue, but how does that work?
Yeah. Well, Shinnecock is our home port, I would say, and we're located just minutes from the dock where we pick up a majority of our seafoods. And our relationships are more developed in our local area, obviously. We do work with fishermen in Montauk as well. Sometimes we're running our vehicle out to them. Sometimes they might deliver to us. But we don't really put any limitation on who we're buying from, other than it has to be landed on Long Island, because that mission of ours really does support and champion the local aspect of our seafoods and supporting our community.
In terms of pricing, now I heard that for a period of time, that fish, gone really way down. But where are we now with that?
It's improved. I mean, again, nothing's normal, and I don't think it's going to be. I think that there's opportunities to adapt in ways where, market price, for instance, when things first hit, some of the fishermen in Shinnecock were getting returns that wouldn't actually allow them to go out and fish. And a return is, being paid for their catch. So I had meetings with a few captains about stabilizing that, knowing that if they can't get out, then we're all out of luck, because if there's not enough income to put gas in the boat to pay the crew, it's actually going to seize our fleet. And as best we could, we reached as many as possible to establish a fair market price. So basically, the market wasn't going to necessarily allow activity, and we created a channel to do so through by keeping that price more regulated, more normalized, if you could say that.
Yeah. Tell me who you get fish to. Do you ship things into New York City as well as the island? Or I just want to understand how all that's working, because I know the demand obviously from
Sure.
from places, outlets in the city has changed too, since everything is still not open yet, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Tell me how that works and how that affects the local fishermen or out there.
Sure. I mean, it could be my perception, but it seems like the city has the most pressure on it right now, making it more difficult to have trade going back and forth, although it's happening. But a majority of our business is happening on Long Island. To give you an idea of the different markets that we work with and have created over the years, we're working with restaurants. We're working with markets on main highways that might have the ability to have refrigerated foods, so seafood does fit. We're working with retail, with home delivery. People are picking up. Yeah, our fishing is vibrant, and it's seasonal, so things change. Right, this week we're seeing sea bass has been very abundant. The fluke landings have been good. Monkfish is another fish that we're working with. So these things change, and there's not a lack of landings by any means. And I think plugging in those channels for distribution are really the most important thing, which is a whole job in its own. It takes marketing, it takes relationships, and it takes processing that we do, and real talent and skill in those who are in the facility doing this work to put out a high quality product and truly represent the high quality of the fish. The people that are working behind the scenes, they're aces. They're people that have done it for a long time, who are incredibly good at what they do. And I think that encapsulates that higher end product, something that's going to be full of the quality that one might expect.
You seem like you've been very resourceful in terms of this pandemic. Some people have come through it in ways that have surprised us. What has been the greatest challenge for you, and how do you see things going forward, especially as we're now in this season? The summer season is right here.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I guess what's been most challenging, I kind of referred to it earlier, is that every step you're taking takes 3 or 4 times the effort, because we are reacting as well as adapting, as well as thinking things out in real time. Every day can be very different. It's not normal business. And I think having just an open mind, thinking outside the box, being flexible, taking on different challenges that you might not normally, has been probably the biggest challenge in staying in front of the curve of what's coming next. It's almost you've needed a little bit of a crystal ball to get from one week to another. What I see coming out of the epidemic is that I kind of see it as a sine wave, and you've got 2 of them crossing. So we've got this covoid situation that will decrease, but then normalcy is going to meet it somewhere. So when those 2 sine waves meet, it's going to be an interesting time. And I think that'll be challenging too, to get all of the normal things back online to the capacities that we've seen in the past, while continuing to manage the changes we've seen with the epidemic. So I predict that there will be a moment where everything's kind of happening at once. All that new type of work that we're doing is going to be met by some of the traditional things we've done. We've been asked by a lot of our customers, will we continue to do our home delivery even after the epidemic has passed? And I think it's been so successful and so appreciated by the public that we're definitely going to continue the service, but we're probably going to have to create a whole nother department in our company to manage home delivery, which is good. That's a success that came out of those experimentations and staying relevant to the moment. But those are all the things that I've seen and see coming, if I could best guess at this point.
How far across the East End are you delivering, and can we expect more of that? And I'm curious, not just from you, from other people. Do you think that that's going to be a business?
Original parameter or radius that we set on the program was within Southampton Township. Very quickly, we started to get calls outside of Southampton Town. We were getting some calls from the east, from the west, and we allowed it to grow. We didn't want to stop anything. It was really, you had to start somewhere. So we said, well, Southampton Town is a good shot to start with. We're now running as far as Montauk. And what's convenient too is that if we have a delivery in Montauk, it seems like a lot to get out there. But if we're also receiving seafood and bringing it back at the end of the day, That's how you make those connected things work. And that really supports what I was saying about just keeping an open mind and look at every challenge, if you could call it that, as an opportunity.
Well, we're glad to see that fishing is alive and well on the East End. It's obviously an important source of food and industry and business. And we're finding new ways to get that fish to people, which is great. Okay.
Thank you,
All right,
Angela.
Peter Haskell from Haskell Seafood. Thank you very much.